Alright y'all, welcome to Chris. Before I get into today's show and what we're going to be discussing, I got some great news. So I've been talking with this big podcast called Big 3 Roll-Up. And if you don't know who Big 3 Roll-Up is, University of Florida Gators, Florida State Seminoles, and the Miami Hurricanes. I'm posting my shows in podcast form up there. So if you're a person who wants to listen to some things while they're on the way from work or on the way home, I'm going to be getting that link up and sharing it in all my videos and stuff going forward as well. So you'll have way more avenues to listen to Chris as I continue to expand and grow. So that's exciting. Be sure to tune in for all of that. Now let's get into the show. So this week, it wasn't as busy as last week, let's be honest. Last week had a lot of news, but this week, we have an NFL cornerback. Not just any NFL cornerback, a guy that was paid over $60 million. He was released for saying a word. It wasn't a racial slur, but it was the word retard. We're gonna go into this and see if this was due diligence, if this was justified, if not, and if the Giants have a history of being lenient for one thing and not being lenient for the other. Also on today's show, we're going to be discussing, Nick Cannon wilding out, did Love Don't Cost a Thing. You don't think of Nick Cannon as someone that's going to be making music though. He made the song Gigolo, but he's not an artist. Oh, I'm going to go check out some Nick Cannon. But we checked out Nick Cannon last week, and he dropped a diss song to Eminem. And you're thinking, Eminem, Nick Cannon, are they even on the same level to be dissing each other? So we're gonna get into that and what transpired over the course of this week. But let's just say, rest in peace, Nick Cannon was trending, so you know it's not good for him. Next, we have the controversial Lizzo. I don't like her music, but I understand she has a voice and message for people that's important. But she had a message last week that she was twerking at the Staples Center and, there's kids there, there's a lot of outrage and people were just like, the fuck is she doing and doing this for attention? So I'm gonna get into Lizzo's explanation and see if she had to deal with any repercussions from her twerking at the Lakers game. And lastly, Juice Wrld. If you saw my video last week, he had an unfortunate passing. I wanted to have more information on Juice Wrld's passing before I divulged into it. We got that information this week, so I'm going to tell you about that and the unfortunate circumstances of him passing on. So this is the Chris Show this week. Be sure to tune in, and let's go. So back to what I was talking about, we have an NFL cornerback that was released for saying the word retard. And this cornerback happens to be Janoris Jenkins, and he plays for the New York Giants. And the New York Giants, they're one of the most important teams in the NFL. Being in New York, they're always going to talk about you because you're in New York, even when you suck. And don't get me wrong, the Giants fucking suck right now. So this all started on Janoris Jenkins' Twitter. A fan tweeted him and asked him, do any of those stats count for a W, or do those stats matter? Because Janoris Jenkins was getting attacked by some fans and he was trying to defend himself and saying, my stats are good, I can't control what other people are doing. So then when that fan asked if those stats contributed to any wins, he said, I can only do my job, ... retard. So that happened. And that wasn't the end of it, because Janoris Jenkins the next day, NFL, they have practices every week and they get questioned afterwards. So he got asked about that. And let me show you what Janoris Jenkins' response was.
Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just part of my culture, part of my slang that I use. I wasn't calling nobody no name, like I said. I wasn't picking up nobody. I wasn't throwing shade at nobody. It's just a slang that I use back at home or with my homeboys or whatever.
As you can see from his apology, it wasn't really a great apology. The Giants weren't having it, so they chose to release him. Now, don't get me wrong. If Janoris Jenkins was playing at his top level, does he get released? Probably not. But does he deserve to be released for this? Also probably not. Does he deserve a fine? Maybe a suspension? Yes. But to be completely released from his contract for this, I do not agree. Especially from the franchise that it's coming from. And you know what I'm talking about? If you don't know what I'm talking about, a few years ago, the Giants had a kicker named Josh Brown. And this kicker had domestic abuse issues. And not only that, so he had these domestic abuse allegations happen to him in April of 2016. The Giants kept him all the way through training camp. They kept him all the way through preseason. They kept him all the way up until October. That's when they decided to finally release him and say, oh, we apologize for our misguided action. So a person calls a fan a retard, you release him immediately that week, but your kicker that abuses a woman, you can keep him on your roster for over 6 months. You see where the divide is. What really comes down to, the Giants could have found another kicker to replace Brown in that time, so they're like, oh, we have to keep him, but the Giants season's over, they fucking suck. They probably were gonna release Janoris Jenkins anyway, so they're like, oh, let's get the leg up and start doing it right now. Now, as far as the star cornerback, he goes, this is the best news I've heard in a while. Now he has the opportunity to sign on with a contender and actually play in January, and this actually might be good for him. He could rebuild his value and try and get some more money in free agency. So now, don't get me wrong, I am not condoning him saying the R word or saying that it's okay to say the R word. No, it's not okay. You should be way more cordial when you're an NFL superstar. Watch what you say and watch what you do. But should he have been released for it? I disagree, but you let me know in the comment section. Do you think he should have been released for it, or do you think he should have just gotten a fine? Because me personally, a fine, maybe a $25,000, $50,000, or something like that would have been enough. So Nick Cannon, don't get me wrong, I love Love Don't Cost a Thing. That movie's a classic. You ain't seen Love Don't Cost a Thing with him and Christina Milian, watch it, it's really good. But you don't think of Nick Cannon and music. Like I said earlier in the video, this man made Gigolo. That song was cool. He had R. Kelly on it. I liked it. But he ain't no someone that got bangers or he has a discography or someone I'm going to check out and listen to Nick Cannon. Eminem, Nick Cannon, Mariah Carey, they've all had a pass. Eminem dissed Mariah. Mariah made the song, Why Are You So Obsessed With Me? It was actually good. Eminem actually lost the beef to Mariah. Some people say he don't, I say he did. Mariah made him look a little foolish. But either way, that was almost 10 years ago. So 10 years from now, Eminem said something about Nick Cannon and this song with Fat Joe. Nick Cannon felt the type of way, and he sent this song, and he dropped this song last week called Pray For You. And honestly, the only person we should have been praying for is Nick Cannon. Because as I'm making this video, that song has 163,000 dislikes. It has 53,000 likes, but when you compare that ratio, that's pretty fucking awful. So far, the only thing Eminem has said in response is, Nick Cannon, you owe me an apology. Are you mad, bro? I've never even had a chauffeur. You bougie fuck. Stop lying on my dick. That's all Eminem's had to say. I saw Rest in Peace Nick Cannon. I saw it trending on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So he was trending throughout the week for taking an L. And not only that, this man then wanted to declare himself the winner on Thursday because Eminem never dropped a response. He's doubling down on it because he's playing it for his VIP guests for Wildin' Out. I know what avenue, what lane he's trying to go through. He wants Eminem to come on Wildin' Out at the end of the day. He knows that would draw big ratings. It would be good for him. It would be good for Wildin' Out. I don't know if Eminem will do that. He might just drop a diss track and go. He might just say, Nick Cannon, you ain't on my level, so I'm not going to drop a diss track towards you. Who knows what Eminem's gonna do? Do I listen to Eminem in 2019? Not really. So am I gonna be really looking out for this big diss? But if they're on Wildin' Out, I'll definitely check that out because this beef has been going on for over 10 years now. So there's a lot of built-in aggression. So I'd definitely love to see that Wildin' Out. But as far as them going back as I'm dropping a diss track, you dropping a diss track, I ain't checking for no Nick Cannon Eminem like that. Nick Cannon's not on that level. You guys let me know in the comments, do you even know a Nick Cannon song outside of Gigolo? Do you like Nick Cannon music? Is Nick Cannon just making a fool out of himself, or is he a marketing genius to potentially get Eminem on his show? The twerk that sent people flying. So last week, it was around the time I dropped my video, so it was close, but Lizzo made some headlines when she was twerking at Staples Center. And not just twerking, she was twerking with her butt showing. And I don't know if you know who Rikishi is, but he was a famous wrestler during Attitude Era Wrestling. A lot of people are comparing her outfit to him. It wasn't a good look in that instance. But either way, Lizzo had a lot of haters for it. As far as Lizzo, she might see some of that public hate or opinion on her, but it doesn't bother her because she stays in her own bubble. And I actually believe Lizzo in that because she's pretty carefree, she's pretty happy, she seems like she enjoys herself and is always having a good time. And Lizzo also went on to say that it was a spontaneous decision for her just to get up and dance. So Lizzo went on to say, I don't even think anyone would have seen the back of my dress if I didn't get up to dance. The Laker girls went up to her and said, we're so excited that you're here. And then the Laker girls said they wanted to perform one of her songs for her. Lizzo was honored, but then Lizzo's manager was saying, you should just get up and dance. So then she got up and danced and did her little spontaneous dance. Lizzo went on to say, if you know who I am, this is always how I act, this is always how I've been. And as far as she's only wearing a thong, she said she had layers, so it wasn't just flesh to seats while she was sitting at the Lakers game, because a lot of people were like, that's kind of unsanitary and disgusting in itself. Basically, the last thing Lizzo ended up saying is it took her a long time to end up loving herself and loving her body and all her features. Her butt was still her least favorite feature. Now she's able to display it on TV for everyone. So she's saying, just love yourself. There's always going to be haters, but enjoy doing you. So as far as repercussions for Lizzo, she doesn't have any. Staples Center spoke out over the weekend saying, the people that are saying that Lizzo's banned from the Staples Center, she's lying. She's welcome with flying colors anytime she wants to come. So she's not banned from Staples Center, which is good. You know, she's in LA. She was wanting to see the Lakers. They're the best team in the league. But she also got invited by the Houston Rockets to be able to perform or dance at their games. As far as Lizzo being in the front row or maybe twerking at games, is this going to be the end of it? Maybe, but doesn't seem like it. And I really do not have an issue with it. My only issue with it is where you're doing it at, the public venue. There's kids that go to basketball games that are like 5 to 8. Do they really need to see Lizzo shaking her ass? There's a time and place for everything, and that's where I feel like this isn't the time and place for it. But Lizzo, do your thing, show your love of your body, but just don't do it at the kids thing. That's my only issue. How do you guys feel about this situation? Do you guys feel this thing was overblown? Do you just feel like Lizzo's doing this for attention and clout? Or do you feel like Lizzo's just genuine and this is just who she is? I'd love to hear. Okay, so I wanted to save talking about, you know, someone passing or the rest in peace of Juice Wrld for last, because in my last video I went in depth about it. So it turns out Juice Wrld made a fatal decision when he decided that he was going to swallow his painkiller pills to hide him from the feds. Juice Wrld had over 70 pounds of weed. He had all those painkillers. And my issue is that if Juice Wrld had all his boys and things with him, why didn't any of them take the slack for that? Or why didn't any of them swallow it? Why would you let your bread burner Juice Wrld do this? Why would you put him in this position? Also, some of the Juice Wrld people were saying that there was some racial profiling going on, but you're a young artist. You've had issues with guns and weed and bringing them over states and stuff in the past. You are going to be a red flag, and that's kind of warranted. So I don't agree with you guys in that instance. You deserve that. What I heard is that the pilot reported that there was guns on the plane. Even though they're registered, it's still his obligation to do that, because if you're smuggling drugs or smuggling weapons over state borders or anything like that, he can lose his license or go to prison. So he was doing his job. At the end of the day, it just seems like Juice Wrld was really scared of facing prison time or what was going to happen. So he tried to hide those pills and ended up losing his life over it. And now he had his funeral over the weekend. His family wants him to be an example of what addiction is and how some people should stop doing it. It's very bad, especially with these painkillers. Like I said in my previous video, weed, liquor, just stick to those two. You can live a long life just doing that. Don't drink liquor too much, don't smoke weed too much, balance it out. But if you're gonna divulge in stuff like that, you don't need the lean, you don't need the painkillers, you definitely don't need none of that meth, heroin, and none of that other shit. Just stick to the weed and liquor. And as I said, hopefully you listened to some Juice Wrld music over the week and you realize how talented he was, and we lost a really good young artist. R.I.P. to Juice Wrld. Let this be a lesson for you other artists that are doing Percocets and doing lean. You guys need to quit that shit. It's not good for you. And also, when you guys are flying on these private jets, y'all need to be smarter. Do not be bringing over 70 pounds of weed, or don't be bringing over all these painkillers. You guys are still not untouchable. You still can be arrested, so you gotta be smart of how you guys do these things. Alright, so that's mainly what I wanted to talk about this week. Like I said, this week wasn't crazy with headlines, but it was a good talk with the Lizzo, Nick Cannon. We got some more updates on Juice Wrld. And of course that Janoris Jenkins situation. It still don't completely sit right with me because it comes from the Giants, who were allowing a domestic abuser to be on the roster for over 6 months. So I don't know how to feel about that. Remember everything I asked about you in the comment section. Be sure to participate. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to turn on the notification bell for all my videos. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it. This Chris. I'm out. This motherfucker.